Hello, and now we come to the final note thingy video, haha, in the China topic. So, after we've seen Mao's rise to power, the rise of the CCP, now we see how he consolidates his power in the mid-50s and beyond. So, Mao is a bit eccentric. His ideological goals set him apart from the rest of the CCP and ensured that he would remain the symbol, aka the Chinese Jesus and the cult of personality. His policies were flexible to meet the needs of China because he recognized that orthodox communism need to fit with the specific situation. So, for example, the adaptation of the proletariat revolution to the peasantry revolution, etc. His key ideas were the usual class struggle, revolution, self-reliance, and it's Mao Zedong thought, or just Maoism in general. He used this he made this the official thought of the party, and he just became the face of the party using terror to his own people. His kind old moderate self is all gone, as you can see. Look at these parading anti-aircraft guns. Anyway, Mao used the PLA to consolidate his power, which makes sense. If you control the army, you basically control the country. Every year, over 800,000 men were conscripted into the army. And the PLA was therefore important to him because it allowed him to brainwash the youngsters, and the soldiers were put to work alongside peasants, participating in public works projects like railways and roads and stuff. And it makes the party look well because it makes the party look nice because it shows that they're down with the people, they're down to earth, and at the same time the soldiers can kind of spread communism a little bit to the common people. And so this system was called mass line, and the Chinese people, it just unified the Chinese people in their minds. And while Stalin would simply crush resistance, Mao was cunning and would just spread and plant ideas, just like Inception and stuff. And so by raising political awareness of the peasants via the PLA, Mao was able to brainwash the people, make the people believe in him and his cult of personality, and just basically consolidate his power as the undisputed leader with relatively little resistance. The outbreak of the Korean War in '50 created an atmosphere of fear the survival of the communists, given that the US and basically the rest of the UN were going against communism. And so to exploit this, Mao justified his actions as eradicating like the anti-revolutionaries, the rightists, etc., enemies of the state. So he began campaigns to just purge everything, so it's kind of, yeah. And so common methods of terror were labor camps and public executions, and those group criticism sessions in which like people would literally get in a group and just speak and just denounce each other and then confess their crimes and stuff. The mass population were also involved, so Mao at this time got rid of his moderation, kind self, and used terror to instill fear, and his control to instill fear among the general public, so that no one would dare to rise up against him or just disobey him. This along with his godlike status in China, just really made him invincible. And despite some executions from these methods, many died by suicide because public humiliation was too big for them. So from 53 to 57, moving on to industry and less from the political and social side of things, he progressively collectivized agriculture because he wanted to turn China into a socialist society, because like he hated private land ownership because capitalism is evil. So collectivization could theoretically increase his productivity because everything is centralized and whatever. So Mao introduced mutual aid teams, as I've said last time, to help people, and collectivization helped Mao to secure power in the countryside because the countryside was increasingly subject to bureaucracy. So basically people were just like stalling and just using the different ranks and type of power to just stall things. And Mao thus was able to control richer peasants and bring them under the wing of collectivization, so nobody could evade his grasp. This is very cunning of him. He's a strategist more, and he's a strategist more than a tactician. There's a huge difference between the two. So the poor peasants benefited from the collectivization, and they were more eager to support Mao. And given that China was mainly made up of poor peasants, basically already won over 70% of the country as a 100% total. Collectivization, however, caused party divisions because it wasn't effective and it was kind of stupid in the end. Because in the end you basically got rid of privacy entirely. It undermined Mao's position because Mao basically took away the privacy and property that he had promised them all those years ago. So many peasants later resisted collectivization, like the upper stage cooperatives, but he was able to brainwash the people into believing what was best for them. So yeah, soft tactics. So one aim of propaganda was to encourage individuals to expose anyone who threatened communism, aka ratting on your neighbors and stuff. This was also frequent in America at the time of the Red Scare. So while in the West you would report someone who was suspected of being a communist, in the East, in Asia, you would rat out someone who was not communist. So it's very polarized. So, for example, businessmen, etc., anyone resisting, they would be like forced to leave or they would be killed. So if Chinese people resisted the propaganda, they were seen as opponents and they would be just purged. So opponents would be sometimes denounced in accusation meetings, and the crimes would be spread. So like humiliation, and many, as they said, many gave in under pressure and then they committed suicide. Those who didn't were like sent to re-education. So it's really 1984, where you'd be like re-educated forever. It's scary. And now we come to the 100 Flowers campaign. This is very tricky of him because he basically, during this time, the peasants were not the peasants, but the educated and some of the slightly more knowledgeable peasants, they started to criticize party rule, saying that it was too authoritarian and dictatorship. So Mao said, let 100 flowers bloom and let 100 flowers of thought contend, or something like that. He basically invited the people literally to speak out against the party and criticize. So he said that under the guise that, oh, we need to learn from feedback and criticism. And then the people took the bait, and after Mao saw who was speaking out against the party, he just basically turned on them and purged them. So it's a very cunningly disguised purging campaign. So well played, Mao. Sorry to you intellectuals. So yeah, 500,000 people were killed after speaking out, and 100,000 were sent to labor camps. So of course this made fear, and the death of many intellectuals that kind of crippled China's development. So education was disrupted. But it did make Mao truly unstoppable, because now most of the intellectuals are gone. So it didn't help China's economic situation. So Mao, after consolidating his power in this way, Mao started to focus on the 5-year plans, again copying the Soviet Union. The first 5-year plan focused on heavy industry. So, and actually the first 5-year plan was quite successful. Actually, there was a huge rise in production, and there was an industrial boom, and there was like quality goods thanks to Russia. But later it was poor quality consumer goods, because Mao again copied Stalin. To quote Stalin before the battle of around the Battle of Kursk, he said something of like, quantity has a quality of its own. Mao, communists also tend to do that because like they can throw many people at the enemy. So Mao was also keen on quantity instead of quality, given that how can you generate quality? China is poor, and there was overcrowding and poor living conditions in the industrial urban areas, and in rural areas Mao encouraged like those famous backyard furnaces. So yeah, he started China, industrialized China, and just basically used propaganda to scare the people into thinking that he is God and no one should disobey him, otherwise you would have terrible results. So this brings an end to the brief interlude into the Chinese topic. So again, I'll see you guys in the next video with the next topic. So thanks for watching, and bye bye.